Well, welcome back to Radio Entrepreneurs, everyone. And we continue to stream stories of entrepreneurship, leadership, and how people are dealing with this economy. It's great to reach into other cities, other areas, hear what's going on. Our next guest, Dan Forbes, editor, Entrepreneurship and Innovation Exchange, EIX, associate professor, Carlson School of Management at the University of Minnesota. Welcome, Dan.
Thank you for having me, Jeffrey. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you. That's one of the longest title intros I've ever
Well,
had.
I don't know that that's a good thing, is it? But the key thing is I am an editor for EIX, and I think that's what we're mostly going to talk about today.
Well, I can barely edit my own text. So tell me about what you're doing in your position, because that's never been my forte. I
Yes,
thank God
yes.
for spell check.
We all need an editor once in a while. Absolutely. I've been in this role for about 5 years now, and EIX has been around since 2014. And I'll maybe back up, if I may, and give you a little bit of background of where EIX came from, and then I'll explain my role in it. EIX is short for Entrepreneur and Innovation Exchange, which is an online resource that's made available to entrepreneurs and others who work with them, which could include consultants, could include teachers, could include investors. And the idea for this resource came about when Dick Schultz, the founder of Best Buy, was talking with some colleagues of his, some lifelong friends, really, including Jim Wetherbee, who had served on the board of Best Buy and was also a professor of information systems. And Dick is at an age now where he's really focused on giving back to the world. The world of entrepreneurship has been very good to him. He has given enormous gifts in terms of employment and innovation to the country, to the world through his creation, the company of Best Buy, and he's reaped the benefits of that. And he's at a stage where he wants to give back to the next generation of entrepreneurs. And so he approached Jim Wetherbee and said, what are some ideas that you have, Jim, as to how I can do this in the world of education? And so Dick has several ways of supporting education, but one of the ways he does it is through this website, Entrepreneur and Innovation Exchange. And it's meant to be it's a resource that's free to everyone. It's meant to be a resource that provides people with the kinds of nuts and bolts knowledge that weren't available to him in his generation. When he was putting together his business, Dick never had the opportunity to finish college, so he had to grope his way through on his own. And there's some valuable lessons you can learn from that. But it's also really helpful if you can have some guidance from people who've been through the path at various points. And so Dick wanted to make those resources available to everyone. Jim had already built a successful journal in the information systems field called Management Information Systems Quarterly. And Jim had the idea of putting together Entrepreneur and Innovation Exchange as a way of sharing current knowledge that's grounded in high quality research or thoughtful practice. And the idea is to make available to people all kinds of knowledge. Here we are in 2022. There's a lot of knowledge available in the world as to how to run various kinds of businesses. And some of that knowledge, as we were talking about before, Jeffrey, some of that knowledge comes from the academic world. We have a robust field of entrepreneurship research. But also some of that knowledge obviously comes from people who are practicing entrepreneurs and others who have worked with them along the way. So we have several types of articles several types of content that we make available. We have articles, which could be what we call research translations. So they're usually articles that summarize key insights from a recent piece of research. Or they could be what we call practice insights. And these are articles in which practicing entrepreneurs share some of their observations or tips to others. We have interviews with entrepreneurs. So some of the people we've interviewed are Seth Goldman of Honest Tea, Tom Golisano of Paychecks, and Linda Hall, who was the CEO of Minute Clinic during its growth period. we sit down with these folks and interview them in a format very much like this. And what we've done recently is condensed those interviews into a series that we call Learn from Leaders, where we take clips of those interviews on various topics. Could be financing, could be building a team, what have you. So we do some of that. It's some video content, interview content, and then we do other things. We have some content that's targeted to teachers. Could be K-12 teachers, could be people working in community-based organizations, could be college professors as well. And for them, we have exercises, we have tips, we have case studies that can be used as a basis for discussion and helping students and entrepreneurs to get a better handle on various aspects of entrepreneurship. So that's what we do in EIX.
Well, it's an impressive list of people that you've interviewed. Not as impressive as the interview I have this morning with Dan Forbes, but some guys have to scrape the bottom of the barrel, and some guys win big. And I guess I'm the one who won big. Dan, how did you get into all of this? What's your background?
So my background I'm a business school professor by profession. I've been teaching at the University of Minnesota for 22 years. I came it came to Minnesota in the year 2000. It was my first job out of grad school. I had done a PhD at New York University, the Stern School of Business. Prior to that, I had worked in banking, but that's maybe a story worth telling a little bit as well. I was in graduate school in the late 1990s, and I was studying management and organizational behavior. So a lot of what I was reading was about organization theories derived from large companies like General Motors. And they were talking about multi-divisional firms, and they were talking about diversification strategies. And remember, this was 1997, 1998. I was looking out my window and seeing friends come together in little groups of 5 or 8 people in a loft in New York City, and they were starting internet startups, what they called new media startups at the time. And this was just an explosion of activity. It was really, it was an episode, I think, in American history where it sort of popularized entrepreneurship for the first time in a way that we now take for granted today. Everybody in the late 1990s knew somebody who was involved in a startup, even if they weren't themselves. And so that fascinated me, and I wanted to learn more about that. I did my dissertation on internet startups, and in the years since then, of course, entrepreneurship has gotten even more popular and important in the world of business schools and in business, even large companies. Some of what I do today, for example, is working with executives and part-time MBAs who were working for established companies, but who want to make their companies more innovative. And so having spent some time with startups ends up being useful in that kind of teaching. So I was a professor, still am a professor. I do a combination of teaching and research, as many professors do. And in about 2015, I got a call from David Deeds, who's a professor at the University of St. Thomas. David Deeds is someone who worked closely with Jim Wetherbee to put EIX together. And David said, "Would you work with me on this initiative?" It's and David is the Schultz professor at St. Thomas. So Dick has been very generous in supporting business education at the University of St. Thomas, which is a school here in the Twin Cities. And I said, "Sure, I'd love to learn some more about it." And it's really taken off beyond our wildest expectations, partly because we have so much input. Entrepreneurs are generous with their time. Academics have been generous in writing summary translations of their articles. It's really valuable to them. They like to get, nobody wants to work on a research paper for 3 or 4 years and have 10 people read it, which is sometimes what happens if you publish these things in an academic journal. So they love the opportunity to share what they've been working on with a broader audience. As of the year ending June 30th of 2022, we reached 3.5 million page views for people coming to EIX and accessing various forms of content on our site. Not all of those are unique users. We have some data on how many of those are unique, but it's clearly, by any metric, we've experienced great growth, and we're delighted by that.
Well, this is just quite an exciting story. Anything to look forward to in the next year, in addition to what you're doing, that's going to be coming?
Yeah, we want to keep doing more of the same, and I think we want to increasingly find new ways of meeting people where they are. Some people, as you know, some people prefer podcasts. Some people prefer, to access information on social media as opposed to sort of going to a website in a traditional way. So we're starting a YouTube channel. We're trying to condense some of our information that we have in interview formats. We're trying to condense that into podcast form so you can listen to what we have on the way to work, for example, if you're driving in your car, if you're taking a run. I think mostly we want to keep doing what we're doing because it seems to be resonating, but we want to try to repackage it in ways that work for people and young people today who are always challenging us to find new ways of sharing information.
Well, we're speaking with Dan Forbes. I'm not going to go through the whole list. It's a little too long, but Dan, if you want to give us some of those links, we'd be glad to put them on Radio Entrepreneurs. We're glad to have you back again. I think the collaborative effort will only help both of us. But if someone's looking for you, wants to know about EIX more or the program in Minnesota, how would they find you?
Absolutely. You can go to EIX.org. That's probably the easiest website. You'll see that translates then to EI Exchange, EIEXCHANGE.com. Either of those will get you to our main site, and then you can click from there to a variety of places, including doing search by topic.
Well, thanks for being on Radio Entrepreneurs again. And, I really hope I can twist your arm and get you back again.
Thank you so much, Jeffrey. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. Remember, everybody, this is Radio Entrepreneurs.